Welcome to the Green Mountain National Forest. I'm Ruth, your camp host. Usually I'm dressed in my uniform, which is all dark green. Now, many of you I know go to campgrounds, and I know they're pretty crowded and excitable, but this is a different campground. This is our campground up in the Green Mountains. You go in off the state road about 3 miles, right straight up, and it's a pretty tricky road. When you get there, am I doing all right, Jerry? Not that I want to be on television. But when you get up the top of the hill, you'll find our campsites. We're in a circle on what they call a landing in the forest on the mountains. And it's just a flat place. The mountain goes up higher, but we're just on a little plateau like. And we have a very nice campground that everybody loves to come to, but it's a wilderness campground. We don't have any electricity and no telephone. And then the next question is, where are the showers? Well, we don't have any showers either, but we have a nice brook. And it's cold, but when you come out, you know that you've been in the water. Now, my duties as a host is to welcome everybody when they come in. So as I see them drive around, and I just go up to their car and ask if they're looking for a campsite, and they have their pick of whatever they want. And then the next thing is, after they settle into their campground, is to advise them of what we have for them to see, what is interesting, and there are a lot of interesting places in Vermont. So that then it leads from one thing into the other. We find out that, no, we don't have the showers, but we have outhouses, and they're nice and clean. So that turns off some of the women, but most people stay. Now, we have quite people from all over the United States, every state in the Union. We have a lot of people from Florida, drive all the way up there just to have that peace and quiet. We have people from Arizona, from California, Missouri. I can't tell you any state that we don't have them from. It'd be easier that way. But of course, we have them from Canada, too. They love to come down there, get away from it all, because it's quiet. And that's what everybody gets out of their car, and they say, it's so quiet. Now, each campsite consists of a table, picnic table, a campfire, which is a huge cast iron fire pot, where you make your own fire. And don't forget, you have to gather your own firewood. It's not supplied. So that's your first exercise, is walking around getting a campfire. And we have a tent site, which is a platform where we have filled in with small gravel that will drain well, where you can set your tent. Or you can bring your camper. And we have many campers, and all the way to the Pace Arrows. And you wonder how they can make it up the hill, but men are like that. They pride themselves, oh, I'm used to driving. So sometimes they don't make it. That's when we get back at them. Now, I'm under the auspices of the Rangers, the Rochester District Rangers, and they are a super group of people, just great. I enjoy working with these men, and they respect me and I respect them. It's just a great group. I can highly recommend any of the rangers, and believe me, they come under the Department of Agriculture. Your rangers that are at the national parks come under the interior, but they are under the agriculture. Now, my day consists of getting up early in the morning and making a trip around the campground, seeing that everybody's settled in and what's going on, because there are a lot of questions to be asked. Where is the nearest store we can buy ice? Where can we get groceries? Where is there a drugstore? Where? So I have to keep up on what we have to offer. And it gives you a chance to talk with these people, which they love to talk. And I think the question most asked by people from out of state is, what do you do with these big houses? You have such big houses in New England. And they can't see why we need all that room. And then the people from the other countries, which I've had people from Germany, Switzerland, even Africa. And I spent an afternoon last year talking to a young couple and a young man. One was from Spain and Israel and Canada. And it was just great talking to these young people and hearing the differences between the way that we are treated and the way they treat people in their countries. And some of them I'm not going to bother to go to. But we've had a lot of German people, and apparently they have bargain rates in Germany for them to come over here. They fly over, they rent a car, and then they rent all this equipment, tent and everything else, and come camping up in that primitive area. Now, someone said, well, aren't there animals? Yes, there are animals. We have all kinds of animals up there. And on many nights, I will hear the bears hooting, along with the owls. And of course, we have the porcupines. And they will destroy anything that's made of wood. And they are the busiest animal and the most stubborn to try to get rid of. And I have been known to be out there at 2 o'clock in the morning throwing stones underneath my car trying to get the porcupines out because they chew on your brake drums. But when that didn't work, I moved the car, they still went after it. Finally, I remembered that one of the local men from Vermont had told me that porcupines do not like pepper. So here I am out there, no one else in the campground, and I'm shaking pepper underneath the car. Boy, he snorted and off he went. He sounded just like a pig. We don't have any raccoons. We used to years ago, but we had a hurricane, and I think it took all their nests because we haven't had a raccoon since. We do have now I'm going to think of their names. But we have fox and deer and coyotes. They scream and holler, even in the middle of the day. And we also have moose. And incidentally, I was the first one to see a moose because a few years ago, moose were not known in Vermont. They were gone. But I was going down the road, and I saw this animal plodding along, just taking his time, and I thought, oh, my land, someone's horse got loose. But what would a horse be doing in the mountains alone? So I slowed down, and there it was, a moose, as I thought, a horse with horns. So when I got to the town, I advised him that I'd seen a moose up in the gap. And he said, oh, no, we don't have any moose. Well, he was a fish and game warden, and I thought he knew everything that was going on. But I said, well, I saw a moose, already saw a horse with horns. But a few days later, a few nights later, I was sleeping in my tent, which was a small two-man tent. Said, I heard this noise in the woods, and I thought, that can't be a horse. The woods are too thick. But it plodded right by the head of my tent. And so as daybreak came, I got up and went out. Well, there were hunters in the campsite next to me. And they said, what are you doing out there, Ruth? And I said, looking for hoof prints. Oh, that horse that went through? I said, well, I don't think it was a horse. So we walked around. They walked with me, and we got down by site number 6. And there were 2 young fellows that were scared to death. Just scared. They said, Ruth, a moose went through, a moose. We saw it, we saw it. And I said, yes, it didn't bother you, did it? So we followed the tracks and went up into the woods. But since that, we found the moose population is growing, and we now have a family of moose. Because up in back of my campsite is a large beaver dam. And I've got pictures here of the beaver dam and the moose there. And they have a family, and the cow moose had twins. Now, one of the twins was hit by a car out on the road, so they go from one beaver dam to the other because they just love to get in there where they can get the good lush green. But we also have people going up to the beaver dam, sitting there, listening to the birds, learning all their names, watching the beavers work, and hoping there'll be a moose come along. And as we have here, it did come along, and the man that took these pictures thought he was getting a picture of one, but he got a picture of 2 moose, the cow and the bull. Now, as I say, there are many types of people come there, but sometimes I am alone. There's no one there. And so it does get kind of touchy. And I don't know whether to pray for someone to come or the wrong ones to stay away. but I try to make the best of it. Well, one night I was sitting by my fire. It was quite late at night, and I was making the mistake of sitting in one of those low beach chairs. But the fire was blazing away, and all at once I heard footsteps. Now, there's only one road up there, and the same road down, and I hadn't heard a car come up. So I thought, well, what do I do now? So I sat there trying to think of the best thing to say or do, but the footsteps got closer and closer. Finally, I could see the outline of 3 men, and they were huge men, and these were heavy boots. And here was my 2-man tent. My car was up nearer to them. So what could I do? I thought, well, the thing for me to do is act tough. So I tried to act tough. And as they got near, I said, hi, where'd you come from? Well, we're logging up on the hill. And I said, oh. Now, some of the loggers don't have the best reputation. There's a favorite word for them in Vermont, and it's called woodchucks. Because, you know, a woodchuck is good for nothing. So these 3 woodchucks were coming towards me. And I could not see them, but they could see me because I was lit up by the fire. So I asked them what they were looking for. Well, they were looking for water. So I told them how to get to the brook. Well, back they came. And they said, that's not what we want. We were looking for the showers. And I said, not here. So they stood and looked at me for a while. And one of the fellows looked at me and said, well, thank you for talking to us. So off they went. Well, believe me, I didn't go into that tent. I didn't dare to go in that tent that night for a long time. Finally, the next day, the sheriff came through. And he said, Ruth, we thought we'd better warn you. There's 3 woodchucks up on the hill. And I said, yeah. And he said, nail everything down. Well, I said, they've already been here. And everything's worked out all right. So that was one of my scariest nights. Another night was a night that I had had company, and they had just left. It was about 11 o'clock. And at that night, there was no one else in the campground. So I was sitting by the fire and thinking, well, now I'll calm down before I go to bed now. Just then I heard a hoot. Oh, from here to that door, no farther than that. And I thought, oh, it was a bear hooting. And I thought, now, what do I do? And of course, some of these people would come up there and say, don't you have a gun? You should have a gun. Well, I'd probably shoot myself before I hit the bear. So I'm no good with a gun. So I sat there and I threw all the leaves and everything I could right into the fire, and the fire went whoosh. Well, the bear gave another hoot and then took off. But that was the closest I came to a bear. But the rangers and the sheriffs have told about coincidences where the bears have come in. And they have one sheriff that can answer them, just sound like another bear. And he hoots back to them. And one night they heard it up on the mountain, and jokingly they said, you can't bring that one down, Jerry. And he said, you bet. So he hooted, and he brought the bear, and it got closer and closer, that all once the pickup trucks took off. It was too close for them. But we do have some very good times, and people are just marvelous. You would be surprised. And I just envy the couples like our own age sitting together by that fire, eating, or maybe they may have a bottle of wine on the table, and just enjoying each other's company. And I know envy is the wrong word for it, but I do envy them because they've got something that I haven't got. But it's just a marvelous experience up there. And as I say, I've had families come in and stay and come back the next year, and then a few years they're back again saying, we wondered if you're still here. Now, I had a family come in from, in fact, he was the ambassador from Holland. And they came in, and of course I went up and gave him my spiel. And the women couldn't speak English, neither could the young people. But the man himself could speak. And he introduced himself and said that people down in Washington had told him when he came over here not to miss Idaho. It was so beautiful. So he went to Idaho. Well, I don't know much about Idaho, but that was the greatest disappointment in his life. So he wanted to explore New England himself, and he came as far as New Hampshire, meaning to turn back. But when he got to New Hampshire and saw the signs Vermont just across the river, they thought they'd come over. Well, they were going to stay just overnight. But the two women played what I would call the recorders, but they call them the wooden flutes. And to sit there at night and hear the music from these women playing in harmony was just the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. And we all enjoyed that so very much. And it was fascinating to hear them talk about Holland and what they have, what we have, and comparing notes. It's just unbelievable that these people are so free and talking about everything that's going on. It just makes you feel that there's such a wonderful, wonderful group of people in this world. When I first started, I had young people coming up there, and especially a crowd from Andover that thought that that was a great place for a wild party. So, of course, that wasn't my cup of tea, and I had to try to find a way of taking care of this. Well, when I saw them coming in the next time, they would come up almost every weekend. And with their drinking, they would go down into the brook, which is very rocky, and they could slip on those rocks, and we're a long way from an ambulance, and it would take me a long time to go down and tell them we needed an ambulance. So I had to find a way of curtailing it. So next time I saw them, then as they came by my campsite, they always go around a few times to pick out the right site. As they went by my site, then I stepped out and asked, "Are you looking for a site?" And yes, we went two together. That gives me an opportunity to look in the car. And lo and behold, I could see what they were going to be doing. The bottles and the cases. So I said, "Oh, you're not going to party, are you?" And they said, "Well," and I said, "This is no place to party." "Well, why?" I said, "This is a family campground. We have children, families here. We don't need parties." "Yeah, but where can we go?" "Well, I have places where I can send them way off into the wilderness. There, they don't even have the outhouse." But that doesn't take care of it. They find places, but they come up and they steal my toilet tissue. And I found a young fellow doing it. I put in a roll every single day, you know, and so I thought, what's happening here? So I just happened to see the car stop at the outhouse. And so I walked up and I asked him if he wanted something. Nothing. And I said, "Well, I haven't been missing a lot of toilet tissue." And here he had it in his hand. I could see it. And I said, "If you wanted it, I'd be glad to give it to you, but I don't like the way you've been doing it." Well, that was the last of that group. Up at our campground, we also had the troops from the Green Berets in Devons. They trained up there because it's rough terrain, and they didn't go across the trails. And all the officers would come in, you know, and their berets were fixed a certain way. And it was fun watching their maneuvers, but one time they lost a man. And they all came up. I had all kinds of officers there. And they were all saying, "You sure you didn't see anybody?" I didn't see anybody, but my dog had barked at something in the woods. So I knew that there had been somebody there. Come to find out, there was another group way up at Stovermont coming down the trail. And these fellows were going up, and the one that we missed was captured. So, simple as that. But they all thought they were camouflaged. And they had a break in the woods where they thought they were out of sight. Well, one fellow had the baldest head I've ever seen in my life. There wasn't one hair in his head. And I said, "If you think you're camouflaged, you better leave your hat on." But we do have great, great times up there. And I know some people wonder why I do it. I did not, someone said, camp when I was young. My poor husband would never believe I'd do it. But I was camping up there one summer, and I hadn't got there till after I got through work, so it was 10 o'clock at night. And so the people that were camping near us told the ranger there was a couple over there that came in about 10 o'clock. So the ranger came over expecting to see a man and a woman. Instead, he found two old ladies trying to saw wood and chop wood. So he said, "Well, how long have you been doing this?" "Well, we've only been doing it that one summer." So he said, "Do you ever think of the host program?" Well, I didn't even know how to camp, let alone know what a host is. And so he explained, well, he left the campground, was back in an hour with an application for me to fill out. So needless to say, I got the job. Of course, there's no money involved, so it's easy. The young people are great. They all say, how did you ever get a job like this? How could we get in on it? And I said, well, just get a hold of the ranger's office, and they'll give you an application. Well, how much do you make? And I said, don't forget, you've got to clean the outhouses. So that kills all the desire. But I'd like to know if there's any questions from anybody. It's up between Rochester and Brandon, Vermont. It's off of Route 73. Yeah, it's on Chittenden Mountain. Mm-hmm.
Why would you be alone there at the beginning?
Alone, because people didn't come camping. Many nights it'll be crowded. 4th of July and Labor Day are crowded, overcrowded. I have them, I'll put in, if I've got a camper in on a spot, I'll put somebody else back into the tent pad just to keep people, because it's such a long ride up there. They can't refuse them, so we double up on the holidays. But sometimes there won't be anybody there. I'm there all by myself.
On the ranges, there wouldn't be anybody?
No, the rangers would come in about once a week to check on me. And the sheriff comes in on like Friday night or Saturday night. They drive through. But there are many nights when I'm all alone. But as I say, I don't know whether to pray for someone to come or someone to stay away. Yes?
Is there another one up there called Chittenden Brook?
Is there a what?
Is there another campsite in that area called Chittenden?
No, this is the same one you've been to.
30 years ago, I was up there.
Mm-hmm. I knew that you had been up there.
And our son got up there,
Mm-hmm.
and he stumbled one close into the car, hit the cement post, broke his glasses,
Ah,
he was drinking. You might remember, they took him down to Brandon, asked if they get an ambulance. They stood on the main street, in 5 minutes, they had an ambulance took him to Rutland, the plastic surgeon where he's gonna die.
see, we can get help when we need it.
It was quite a thing that happened sometime, how fast.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that the surgeon, when he's working on the diet, says that, do you mind if I stop and have a cup of coffee?
Sounds like Vermont.
Well, we do, now, we are right near the long trail that's part of the campground, really, and there are other trails. And now, they will bring a plane down in and carry us out if there's something serious like that. The helicopter, I mean.
Is the chipmunk still there or something from Big Old Tree?
That's the name I was trying to think of. We have more chipmunks than you've ever seen in your life. And they love peanuts. And of course, as I encourage the campers, I said, give them the last of the peanut butter jar, and they'll clean it right up, and they do. They'll clean it up beautifully. Any other questions?
Are you still active?
Oh, yes. Yeah. But now I start waiting for their letter saying,
How many years has it been?
since 76. Mm-hmm. No. And I mean, that's first camping.
You were telling about the tent. I think you ought to tell us you finally got a camper.
Oh, yes, my two-man tent, my children were all worried about me being in that after hearing about the bears and about the men. So my daughter bought a small camper. She asked me to go look at it because she is a cross-country skier. And she said, well, I'll show you this camper, Mom. So I went up and she showed me the small camper. And she, I thought if I bought it, you could use it in the summertime and I'll use it in the wintertime. She never slept in it yet. But I just love it, and I've got some pictures here that will show you what it is. I've also had people from Berlin come up there to camp. And Hudson people. And it's just unbelievable where people come from, you know. But, of course, I really resent the Massachusetts people. You know, they'll come up there, and I don't ask names. I ask your registration number. So I see the plate from Massachusetts. And, oh, you come from Massachusetts? And they'll say, yes, Boston. And I said, I come from Massachusetts, but I don't come from Boston. Now then I'll find out they come from Hudson, or they may come from Lowell, anywhere, but Boston is so easy to say. And I have had, last year I had a young girl, I've been thinking about her because she was one of the girls that plans there night before the New Year's Eve. And she was up there, but she helps to plan all that activity that they have in Boston. And I kept watching the TV to see if she might show up. Very nice-looking young girl. And the other girl with her was a photographer for a television station. So we get fascinating people, really, you know. And one little old lady will sit at her picnic table. She's a reporter. And she's typing up all the news for the paper at home. Yes, Eva?
You still put your husband's boots outside the door?
Oh, yes. At first, you know, I was like that, well, you know, people know there's a woman here alone, then there might be problems. So I usually wear sneakers or heavy shoes. But I went to one of the campsites one day and there was a pair of men's shoes. So I took them back to my campsite and cleaned them up. So every night when I'd go to bed, I put my smallest sneakers out. And also this pair of heavy shoes. And I always, when people would ask me questions, and I still do it, I don't say I always say we. But people leave comments for the Rangers, and they say, we've met the hostess, but we've never met the host. So they send me these letters that people write to them, and people do write to them, and they write to me, telling about what wonderful times they have there. And I'll tell you, it's just been the most wonderful thing that I think I've done. And my family come to see me and stay overnight, and we'll all bunk in. But the two-man tent really, well, it's pretty bad when you have a whole week of rain and you sit on the floor of that tent. Then you wonder if you've lost your marbles or something. But now this other trailer is much easier. It has a door down. That made them all feel better. But I had a doctor come in one time. We have a lot of doctors and teachers and people like that just want to get away from it all. And this man came up, and he stood right in front of me, and he said, you're here alone? And I said, yes. He said, are you eating right? And I said, eating right? If anything, I'm eating more and better, because I do all my cooking over the fire. And when my friends from down home here come up, they just love to, you know, stir up that fire and get the meat going. And, oh, nothing like a slice of ham cooked over the open fire, or hamburger, or even steak. Oh, I usually take some steak from Lowe's Market when I go up there, because it's the best, and it cooks so well. So I think that you've perhaps had enough by now, unless some of you have questions.
Where do you keep the food? I've asked you.
Oh, that's a really tough question, because you don't have refrigeration. So you have to buy ice. And that is very expensive, because it doesn't last long.
And where do you keep the ice?
I keep the ice in a cooler underneath my picnic table. Yeah. And a block of ice will do me like 2.5 days. But a bag of ice, forget it, that's just overnight.
I remember ice. It was the ice boxes.
Mm-hmm. That would be better.
Well, Ruth, we thank you ever so much. And Ruth's going to be here for lunch, and so there'll be an opportunity to ask her some questions about her experiences. Thank you ever so much.
Well, I thank you.